Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wishbone Football. I am Chad, and welcome into episode 1.15 Conference and College Football Projections. Now, I wanted to lead things off here. We are on Thursday, August the 13th. We have live football back. I'm staring at the Cardinals and Raiders, who just went into halftime. 21-14 Cardinals. Been some high scoring football here. But anyway, that's not why we're here. We are here tonight to do college conference projections. So I wanted to lead things off here by sort of going through who I expect to win conferences, who I have as a sleeper, and then also what those bets can look like for those futures. So jumping right in here, first one I'm going to go into is the Big Ten. So currently the Big Ten is Ohio State. They're the favorites to win it at plus 190. Indiana is sitting at plus 260. Oregon is sitting at plus 275. And then that is sort of where our first tier break comes in the Big Ten. And then we get into USC plus 1,400, Michigan at 1,500, Penn State at 2,000, and on goes down the list. Now, what I wanted to do tonight was kind of go through the P6 and pick a conference winner, and also see what that is going to look like in a parlay. Now, many of you know, some of you may not know that I'm Canadian. So we do not have the access to a ton of sports books currently. I think it's starting to open up a little bit more. So the one I'm using here is Bet365. That's who I have been sort of using for most of my gambling here over the last few years. So let's get right into it here. So the Big Ten, Indiana won the national championship in 2025. We know that. Fernando Mendoza went on to play for the Las Vegas Raiders, which wondering if he's going to get a look tonight. I don't think so, but he was playing. Yeah, that's great. So, Ohio State should be the clear favorite here when it comes to winning the Big Ten. It's theirs to lose, but there's also a conversation to be had with Indiana and Oregon, because Ohio State plays the toughest schedule in the Big Ten. And you have to look right at their week 2 game. Their week two game, they travel to Austin, Texas to play the Longhorns in a non-conference game. So, I mean, right there, that's going to be above and beyond what other teams are going to be playing as well. And everyone has been sort of ripping on Indiana and what their schedule is non-conference. And I mean, I want to do a bit of defending for them, because we have to think about when these games are set up. These games are not set up in April of 2026 to be played in September of 2026. Some of these games are scheduled years in advance. Like, I'm quite certain Texas and Ohio State was first announced sometime in 2021 or 2022, I believe, for a home and home in 2025 and 2026. So everyone who wants to jump on Indiana for sort of having a cupcake non-conference schedule, like you can't fault them for that. You really can't. And I think that's something that is overlooked in when these games are being scheduled. So, like, I'm gonna take a look at it right here. The Indiana schedule, because this is what they have set up for non-conference, right? So North 2026 North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky, 27 Kennesaw State, Indiana State, UMass, 28 is Austin P, Eastern Michigan, Miami of Ohio, 29 is Ball State, Eastern Illinois, Western Kentucky, and then 2030 they've got 2 and then 1 set for 2032. So you can't fault them for that. And until recently, Indiana was not a school that teams were wanting to schedule a non-conference game with. They weren't a big powerhouse of a school. And frankly, if it wasn't for the national championship, we still may not be thinking of them as a powerhouse. I think what Kirk Cignetti is doing is very good. He's leading that school in the right direction, but I don't think that we should be thinking that they're some sort of a blue blood school that just schedules whoever they want in the non-conference schedules. It's really something that as they get better, more teams are going to want to play them, other than picking up what they can, like Miami of Ohio playing UMass in 27. Like there wasn't a list of schools who were willing and ready to play Indiana and set them up as a non-conference. I wanted to throw in some defense to them. So back to the conference winners. In the Big Ten, I have Oregon winning the national championship. Or winning the Big Ten. They have had everything set up to lead to this year. I think they have a strong team, a strong program, and I am actually going to be taking Oregon at plus 275 to win the Big Ten. And also what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be putting together a parlay that I'll share with everyone after this to kind of lay out some conference championships. So, moving along here, the next one I wanted to talk about is the Pac-12. This one, I think, is our first runaway in respect to conference, and that's going to be Boise State. I don't think there's any need to overthink that and think that a different team is going to emerge there, a Texas State or a Washington State. I don't think that that's going to be what ends up happening. Boise State, let me just take a look here. I had it as, so they were plus 160 to win the Pac-12. And so that's going to who I'm going to add in to this parlay. Now, before I go any further, I do want to mention a sleeper for each conference. And so let's go back to the Big Ten. And my sleeper is going to be Michigan. And that's simply because of the turnaround that they're trying to do. Kyle Whittingham is able to step into a pretty good situation there. They were able to try and keep some of what was trickling out in the transfer portal, and I think that they are honestly a pretty good bet at plus 1,500, if I'm being honest. I don't know if I'm going to be putting any of Michigan in parlays, but I mean, maybe you throw a 50 on Michigan to win the Big Ten at plus 1,500. I mean, it's not a not I've bet stupider, honestly. So that's who my sleeper is going to be in the Big Ten. My sleeper in the Pac-12 is going to be Oregon State. And let me explain a little bit why. Because Oregon State right now is coming in at plus 3,000 to win the Pac-12. And that's going to be Jamarcus Shepard, who is the head coach there. And I think that him flipping that program over and kind of giving it new life after it's had the same stagnant leadership over, how long was he there for? 8 to 10 years, if not longer. I think fresh new blood in Oregon State is going to be welcomed there. And at plus 3,000, I mean, I'm always trying to find an edge or a different something to be betting on that is going to keep me engaged, keep me up at a 10:30 or 11 p.m. kickoff on the West Coast, being an East Coast person. So Oregon State, they are going to be my sleeper for the Pac-12. The ACC, this has got to be the next runaway. Miami needs to seriously fumble this away for them not to win the ACC, because even the betting lines with the ACC, it is Miami at minus 155, which says it all. Las Vegas is clearly on board with Miami winning that. And then the next one is SMU at plus 700. And I really don't think that anyone is going to win that other than Miami. But I am still giving you a sleeper in this. And my sleeper is going to be Louisville. And that can go a couple of different ways. They have a strong team, but I think they're going to be good. They're going to be probably ranked in the top 25 in the preseason poll, but I do think it's ultimately Miami's to lose there. So, as an update for our 3-leg parlay, so far we are up to a value of plus 1,500. So not bad so far. So 100 pays you 1,600. Can't complain about that. So let's move on here. The Big 12. The Big 12 is going to be, it's not priced the same, but it's going to be a little bit more competitive. Texas Tech, even without Brandon Sorsby there, is going to be the dominant force. And that line is minus 105 for Texas Tech to win the Big 12. But I wonder what it was pre-Brennan Sorsby saga. And I really believe that that's probably come up more than it's come down. So maybe Brennan Sorsby was a minus 190 or 200, minus 200. I really do think that it's something that that definitely hurt Texas Tech. I don't think that it's hurt them to the point that a BYU or a Utah kind of swoops in to win that conference. But I do think that it hurt them in the numbers game of it. Like I mentioned, Texas Tech is minus 105, BYU is plus 550, and Utah is plus 750. I actually did these numbers a couple of days ago in my notes, and it's sort of held true there. There's no big bets have really moved that so far. My sleeper, though, in the Big 12 is going to be BYU. I do think that they are going to be right there. I ultimately probably a Texas Tech BYU final. And I do think that BYU is going to be right there when it comes to a overall an overall ranking. So like BYU 9-3, playing in the Big 12 championship game. I can see them maybe getting, I don't want to say getting an upset there, but I do think that BYU is my sleeper, even though they are the second. But there's just so much separation in the Big 12. You go Texas Tech minus 105, BYU plus 550, Utah plus 750. And then the floor drops out. Kansas State at plus 1,400, Houston at 1,600, Arizona at 2,000. So really you get to, there's a clear division there. It's Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah, and then the rest. So add Texas Tech to our parlay here. And we will move on to the last but not least, the SEC. And this is going to be tough for me because aside from the flag hanging behind me, as you can see, I ultimately do think that it is going to be Georgia who wins the SEC. Texas is going to be right there. I do think it's going to be a Texas Georgia SEC championship final. But I do think Georgia ultimately does edge them out and gets that SEC win and essentially locking up the 1 seed with the bye in the college football playoffs. There's really not a separation between Georgia and Texas. Georgia is plus 280. Texas is plus 300. And really, there's a bit of a logjam behind them, too. We have Alabama at plus 850, LSU, and Texas A&M all at the same. So Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M, all plus 850. Ole Miss is plus 1,000. Oklahoma is plus 1,000. And Oklahoma is going to be who my sleeper is in the SEC. And that's simply because of Mateer. Mateer looks excellent, and really they were only a couple of pieces away from having an unbelievable team last year. And I do feel that they should be given more respect than they've gotten here in the betting, because even people looking at it, like Oklahoma should not be plus 1,000. I know that they have to leapfrog a lot of teams, but in come October, when Texas and Oklahoma play, that could be the marquee win that Oklahoma needs to ultimately go on to leapfrog Texas and play in that SEC championship game. I honestly do believe that. And that's why I do want to give some praise to Oklahoma, because they're right there. They are not the 7th team listed here in the SEC. I think that they should be probably right around where Alabama and LSU are. Plus 800, plus 850. I think Oklahoma is going to be probably my bet that I do make at plus 1,000 to win the SEC. As I don't want to say a long shot, but a better than throwing money away at a plus 280 on Georgia or a plus 300 on Texas, which, I mean, I already have some slips on anyway. But that's going to be who my sleeper is with the SEC, is Oklahoma. And sure, rip me apart for being a Texas fan and thinking that, but I've told you guys time and time again that I'm coming at this objectively. And if it's going to be to give one of our biggest rivals a little bit of love, then that's what I'm going to do, because Oklahoma needs to be viewed differently going into this year. So we've got an update on our parlay here. So Oregon, Boise State, Miami, Texas Tech, Georgia. Pretty chalky, I know. Plus 11,000. So 100 would pay you 11,900. Pretty good. I think I'm going to do a few of these, not just this one. But the other thing that I wanted to get into was also the national championship odds as well. And there's honestly right now, there's not a lot of value in a lot of these picks, because Ohio State is plus 600, Notre Dame is plus 650, Indiana's plus 750, Texas same, Oregon's the same, but Georgia is plus 850, which I find interesting. So I wonder if Bet365 is who I'm using. They've taken more tickets on Texas because of that. But Georgia is plus 280 to win the SEC, but then Texas is plus 750 to win the national championship. So it's all about not what is happening, but what the lines can tell you. So if I was to probably make a bet right now on the national championship, it's probably going to be in the higher brackets here. Georgia's plus 850, Miami is plus 1200. Miami plus 1200 is not a terrible bet. I think I'd prefer that over anything below 1,000. It's really it's I mean 1,200. I think I like that. I think I'm slowly talking myself into Miami at plus 1,200. Not saying that it would happen, but like you get to a point where the bracket falls the right way and you've got Miami in the semi and you're holding a national championship ticket. I mean, then you can at at least be playing the betting line the right way as well. Maybe you sell that ticket at 12 plus 1,200. Um, just something to think about that we throw around. And finally, I wanted to land on the Heisman. Um, it's really like a 4 or a 5 man race, and it's I'll give it to you here. So we've got five. We've got 6 guys 1,200 or less. So that starts Julian Sayin and Trinidad Chambliss at both at 12 plus 1,200. Dante Moore out of Oregon at plus 1,100. Darian Mensa plus 1,000 at Miami. Arch Manning plus 750 at Texas. And CJ Carr at plus 700 out of Notre Dame. And I guess that's the one team that I didn't really talk about here as we went through is CJ Carr and Notre Dame. It's couldn't really pick a conference for them to win in all of this, but they look good. I being a Texas fan now, I'll flip and be a Texas fan for just a minute. But if there's one team outside of the SEC, I'll say, because we know the SEC, it's been beaten to death. It's a gauntlet. We know that. But if there's one team outside of the SEC that you're kind of afraid of, mine is Notre Dame. I feel that they have really hit their stride. Marcus Freeman has really hit his stride, recruiting, NIL, and upholding Notre Dame values, because that's always going to be a piece of this that I think everyone overlooks. But at plus 700 CJ Carr, I mean that's pretty good. Now you could almost look at it the other way too. This is the top 6 are quarterbacks, because I didn't mention Jeremiah Smith, who was plus 1,400, and then the rest are all quarterbacks. John Mateer plus 2,500. That's interesting. You're really looking at what the top of the NFL draft board is going to look like in April of 2027. And those are your guys. CJ Carr, Arch Manning, Darian Mensa, Dante Moore, Julian Sayin, Trinidad Chambliss. Like, that's 6. I'll say 4 of those are gone in the first 8 picks. First 4 out of the 5 picks, probably, because Jeremiah Smith will be the other probably selection that isn't a quarterback. I think he'll be the first quarterback not on the board. Actually, that would be a pretty good bet to put in now on the NFL, is your first player selected, not a non-quarterback. going to look into that. The Heisman is probably going to be CJ Carr. And the reason I say that is the schedule. Ultimately, they've got a couple of hard ones, and it's an ACC schedule. So your cruise control, sort of, just kind of keep the car between the lines while you're going down the road. I think that's Notre Dame. They're going to be a top 6 team when the preseason poll comes out in the next few days. And really, that's going to be who I think is going to win the Heisman, is CJ Carr. And plus 700, maybe I'll shop that around a little bit more on a couple of more books. But I think that would be who my ultimate pick would be with the Heisman. But I want to give you a couple that I already have tickets on, and one that I don't have a ticket on. So I actually have a couple of different tickets for John Mateer at plus 2,500. I think I have him currently at plus 3,000 or 3,200, something like that. But I had bought those, like, it's August now. I had bought those in, I think, June. Some Mateer Heisman. The other one that you kind of can't rule out, though, is Jeremiah Smith. I know, and it's not going to sound like a sleeper, but like for Heisman it is, because with the exception of the last non-quarterback to win the Heisman, it's always a quarterback. It really is. So I think this could be the one year that you look at it and say, well, it could be Jeremiah Smith, and I think there's a good chance of that. If everything plays out the way that it should be, definitely using some air quotes there, I think in New York, when they announce this, it's 2 quarterbacks and Jeremiah Smith there, as a Heisman finalist. And at 1,400, I think there's some value there. It's not a ton, but you have to make sure that you're getting in on these now before the season starts. Because if week 1, Jeremiah Smith goes off for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, that plus 1,400 number is gone. You have to know that. So buying these futures for Heisman winner, it needs to be something that you're taking care of now before you move into week 1 being completed, or even week 2 being completed, especially with Ohio State and Texas playing. So really, my sleeper for the Heisman, I'll say Jeremiah Smith. That's a little chalky, like I said, but John Mateer is who I believe is going to be a Heisman finalist, or someone that could get the look for Heisman. So I'm putting this out tonight here on Thursday, and I'm actually going to be recording another one right back, and it's going to be the NFL in the same sort of breath with respect to conference futures, or division and conference and Super Bowl. So I want to thank everyone for stopping in, having a listen. You can find me on Twitter at WishboneFB. You can find me on Instagram at WishboneChad, and on YouTube with Wishbone Football. So thank you for jumping in. This is episode 1.15. I am Chad, and you have a great day.